Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for the second day of the 2021 Judicial Diversity Summit, Stronger Together. Today's session is entitled, What Works? The 2021 Judicial Diversity Summit is presented to you by the California Judges Association, the California Lawyers Association, and the Judicial Council of California. My name is Greg Tanaka, and I am a supervising attorney at the Judicial Council and have the privilege of being your MC for today's session. To kick off today's program, I have the privilege of introducing Ms. Stella Ngai, the current chair of the Judicial Nominees Evaluation Commission, or otherwise known as the JNE Commission. Ms. Ngai will be sharing what the Commission has done differently since the last Judicial Diversity Summit in 2016. Ms. Ngai is the Chief Campus Counsel for UC Merced. She advises on a wide range of matters affecting faculty, researchers, students, and staff, including academic affairs, research, student affairs, business transactions, and employment. Ms. Ngai is the first Asian American female Chief Campus Counsel for the University of California. Ms. Ngai is the Chief Campus Counsel for UC Merced, and previously Ms. Ngai was Senior Counsel for the Regents of the University of California, advising clients at all 10 campuses in the areas of education affairs and governance. Prior to joining the university, Ms. Ngai was an assistant district attorney for the city and county of San Francisco and a litigator with the law firm of Minami Tamaki. Ms. Ngai was appointed by the Board of Trustees of the State Bar of California in 2018 to serve as a member of JNE Commission, and she is currently the 2021 Commission Chair. Please give a warm welcome to Ms. Ngai, and thank you for being here today.
So as many of you know, I'm the chair of the JNE Commission. The JNE Commission is Commission on Judicial Nominees Evaluation, and we're the statutory body with 36 members charged with evaluating candidates for the governor's office. I know that the title of my talk is what has changed with JNE in the last 5 years. I'm going to interpret that a little expansively. I'm going to think about the theme of the day of what works. I'm going to talk about what I think works, what has changed with JNE, and what hasn't changed, and why I think that's a good thing. So I want to start by saying, who here has seen the governor's list announcements of judicial appointments when they come out? That nice email with the pictures. And who gets really happy when they see those announcements? Yes, me too. I think we have that in common. And one of the reasons I get happy, of course, is because the list looks like people from throughout California with different backgrounds. And what I've been thinking about is that it's not an accident that you get a list that's filled with people, wonderful, qualified people from all kinds of backgrounds. It's about intention. So I think about intention a lot in my life in different areas. And this is one of the areas that I'm thinking about. I've been reflecting on how we have the intention from the founders and the people who've been working on judicial diversity for years and years and years, and how this plays out every step of the way. And it also makes me think of anyone who's been involved in hiring. I think about a hiring process, for example, and how if your goal is a robust and wide pool of qualified candidates, you need intention every step of the way. And if you let your foot off the gas for any part of it, you see the results in a shrunken pool, from how you write the job description to who you pick to lead the recruitment to the composition of the hiring panel. These things all matter. And analogizing that to what's happened and what's gone into judicial appointments, I see the intention every step of the way as well, with legislation, policy, and people, and initiatives and talks up and down the state. And you see how this all works together to get these wonderful lists of appointees. And then the other things I think about, of course, are in hiring processes, is you also need anti-bias training for everyone on that hiring panel. And so this gets played out as well in the judicial diversity front as well. So, okay, so starting big picture in terms of what I don't think has changed since 2016 is that we've had 2 governors in a row who care about judicial diversity, who care about a judiciary that looks like more people in California, who care about appointees coming from different backgrounds, different cultures, and practicing different areas of law. So that's something that we obviously, we've had 2 governors who care. Because I've heard stories, I've heard tell of how in the old days, it was about 1 or 2 types of practices and magic number of trials. And it's always so wonderful to be at events with Secretary Cespedes and Deputy Gonzalo Martinez when they talk about how, no, there's not 1 magic number of trials and 1 type of practice. So that's exciting, that the strength and looking at legal experience broadly is in our government code, and it's operationalized as well by this administration. Briefly, I think most of you know this, but just a reminder that the JNE Commission does not pick the names, does not pick the people that we evaluate. That's a list that comes to us from the governor's office. So thank you, all of you who voted for this governor and the last governor, because it matters in terms of many things. And one of them is who they're appointing and sending to JNE for evaluation. One of the things that stayed with me in terms of watching that judicial diversity yesterday talk was the story about how at an event, a former judicial appointment secretary was asked, well, to what extent does diversity go into your selection? And the response back apparently was, it doesn't. So that was really interesting because, of course, in terms of what flows from a governor that you vote for, it's the judicial appointment secretaries that they in turn appoint. And I feel very fortunate that would be put in the bucket of what hasn't changed, is that we've had judicial appointment secretaries who care about inclusion. I started on JNE there was Justice Groban, now Justice Groban, Justice Jenkins, and now Secretary Cespedes. People who care about a qualified judiciary and about diversity. And that's been such a pleasure to be a part of and to see their intention and how they execute the job. And I know there's things that I certainly don't have windows into, but I see them working, these secretaries, on different fronts for an inclusive judiciary. And that's been so wonderful to see. Another thing that I think, I don't know if it's changed from 2016, but it sounds like it's changed since 2005, is the approach that we hear again from the governor's office. One of my favorite things that I hear Deputy Gonzalo Martinez say when he addresses groups on appointments is that becoming a judge is not about who you know. So I just love that reminder, because when I think about society as a whole, how many things are about who you know, right? But from where I sit on the JNE Commission, we have our rules and we're evaluating according to our rules. And for the way I look at it and the way I analyze it, it's not about who you know and who you've donated to or who you've campaigned to. It's about who you are, what you've done, and what you do today as well. I had the privilege of being at the Commission on Judicial Appointments hearing a couple of weeks ago, and it was gratifying to hear from Justice Klein about how he too was around in the 70s when the rules and law evolved to put into process our current evaluation process. And he talked about how it's a merit-based process. And that is true. And that is true from where I sit as well. And that's what I'm proud of. Again, just flowing back to what the governor's office says, it's not about who you know, it's a merit process. So back to what hasn't changed in terms of JNE, I referenced our rules and the government code. And this is, I think, part of our strength, that California's judicial evaluation process, we're rules-based. So anyone can go to the State Bar website, the JNE page, and our rules are right there for everyone to see. And in those rules, you'll see, you go to Rule 7.25 for qualities evaluated of candidates. And it's all right there for you to see. Integrity, judgment, legal experience, intellectual capacity, community respect. It's all there for you to look at. So that's in the category of hasn't changed. This is what we've been going by. This is our rule. And a version of that is in the government code as well, government code 12011.5, which of course is another thing, the section on collecting demographics that many of you have talked about and will talk about at this summit. So interesting to hear about. And I know this goes on today too, how data collection alone can be controversial, that there can be pushback because some people are afraid of the data. Well, the State Bar is one of the entities that has been collecting the data on the appointees for years now. And I'll get a little more into that in a minute. I want to go into expand a little bit about the JNE Commission. As I said, we're 36 commissioners from throughout California. We're licensed members of the bar. We have public members and we have retired judges, and we're from throughout California. And we too are broadly representative of the diversity at the bar. And we also come from different practices. Family law specialists, solos, we're from big law, small firms, defense, prosecution, federal. So that's something I think that also helps the process as well. So now for something that has evolved since, I would say, the 2005, the first summit, is that back to the demographics, the State Bar has been collecting data. And I think initially it was gender and ethnicity. And then over time it expanded. So now the categories include gender identity, sexual orientation and practice area, disability and veteran status. So if you go to our JNE page, you can see click on demographic reports, and you can see the breakdowns, and you can even see the breakdowns by gender and ethnicity of what ratings were given as well. And also in what has changed, well, one thing that hasn't changed is we are required at JNE to have anti-bias training. When you join JNE, you get training, and then for each additional year, you get an additional amount of training each year. And at the State Bar, we've elected to even double that amount of training that we were getting before. And one thing I'm very pleased to talk about is that in the last year or so, State Bar staff and the Judicial Council have been partnering together to deliver this anti-bias training. And it's been such a pleasure to work with Catherine Ongiri and Michael Roosevelt on the training. So this I view as another process improvement. Many of you do diverse anti-bias training in your workplaces as well. So there's all kinds of providers out there, and Catherine and Michael have been my favorite of all the many types of training that I've done in this space. Thank you. I also want to thank State Bar staff for working with Catherine and Michael to tailor the training to the work of JNE, because I'm going to brag a little bit. You know, the commission, we're not starting at ground zero in terms of anti-bias. Speaking for myself, bias is something I think about a lot, and it's something that I think all of us need to think about and check ourselves and check each other. So I really appreciate having, let's call it advanced anti-bias training as presented by Catherine and Michael. So thank you very much. And finally, I want to talk about I'm not sure, I'll leave this to some of you, whether you think this has changed or has not changed since 2016. If you have ever filled out one of our forms, the JNE Commission forms, they're called CCFs, confidential comment forms. If you've ever filled one out and submitted it to us, you are part of the reason that we have these fabulous lists of appointees, of judicial appointees, because you are showing that you care about the composition of the judiciary whenever you take the time to fill it out. And so Kathy's heard me make this plug before. We really appreciate when you fill out the forms. Everyone with personal knowledge, it's so important for a full investigation for everyone to fill out our forms. And I'm specific about this. They're called CCFs because the State Bar we have our own special software. So this is how we track. Even if you're just checking off the boxes and you don't write a word, that's fine. If you write some words, that's great. You can even attach your letter of recommendation if you want as well. So thank you so much. I mean, if you're enthusiastic, unenthusiastic, somewhere in between, we need it. We need the data for these full and fair investigations. I want to thank you for inviting me to be a part of this day. It's personally meaningful for me to be in a space with other people who care about opportunity for all, with other people who care about representation, inclusion, about history, and about how laws and policies and practices and structures of institutions all work together to sometimes limit opportunity, and who also care about how we can work together to make things better for our present and our future. So thank you. It's so wonderful to be in a space like this. And last, I know you care about the composition of the judiciary. So if you're able, consider joining JNE. Next, look out, January or February on the State Bar website is when the volunteer application goes up. Last year, we got 112 applications for 13 spots. I'm really thrilled with the interest. And so if not for you, also send along your fabulous friends and relatives who could be public members. I'm happy to talk to any of you about the work of JNE. Thank you very much.